Hello again. Welcome to Seasoned Citizens Present. I'm Don Lang, happy to be with you today. Today I'm so happy to present to you part of our government. We have with us Postmaster or Postmistress. What do we have here?
We have we have a Postmaster, Don.
Okay.
Dyann Roby. And I always, you asked me that question the other day as to whether I was a Postmaster or a Postmistress. And I always delight in my response is that I have never been anyone's mistress, so how could I be a postmistress?
There we are. There's the answer for you right now.
And it is a title, not a gender. So yes, the history of the Postal Service goes back to Ben Franklin, the first Postmaster General of the United States, was the master of the post, and therefore the name derived as Postmaster.
Well, that's interesting. Thank you for that information, Diane. We welcome you to our program, and looking forward to find out some of these tidbits that you are obviously well aware, having been around a while with the, we'll get into that. Where were we born, Diane?
I grew up in Illinois. I'm from across the river. My home my parents still reside Cambridge, Illinois.
Cambridge.
It's a small community halfway between Geneseo, Kewanee, right around in that area. In the rural area. My mother and father still live there, and I guess I started my education when I grew up because my parents bought an old schoolhouse and began remodeling, and so I've been in school for a good many years.
How about that? Start right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom. Right at home was my education. I very really attest to my parents and respect them a great deal because they've taught me a good value system as I grew up, how to work hard, how to respect people, and it's carried through in my adult life.
It certainly has. It's shown out quite well. I think they're quite proud, and I know you are. Okay, where do we start our career? Now, I'm talking about back when we were high school, what have you. Did we do soda work and all the things that
yeah, I was the typical high school part-time job, working in a 5 and 10, a Ben Franklin, did a little soda clerking behind a fountain, was a stock clerk, worked in a pharmacy, all that type of thing. And that far back, 80 cents an hour, that certainly doesn't reflect it all today, and I'm certain you could share with me some more interesting stories on the wage salary from going back a few more years.
We won't bring that up right now, with inflation and what have you.
With everything, no. So after high school, though, I went on to Western Illinois University for a year at the college, and had every intention at that time is becoming a teacher, and things just didn't always work out, and I ended up back financially. Things were a little bit tough, so back in Moline, Illinois, at the Black Hawk Junior College at that time, and went to school there for a year. And while I was working and also trying to pay the bills, my aunt said, you know, they're giving the Postal Service, the Civil Service exam, is what they called it at that time. And she said, would you be interested in taking that test? And I said, well, what's it pay? $2.65 an hour. Well, you can imagine, having been working at 80 cents an hour, how that sounded delightful. I was ready. So took the exam, and it's very difficult to get on with the post office, and so your score is extremely important. So I started at Moline, Illinois, for a short period of time. And then I came to Muscatine, Iowa. A portion of my life brought me into the Iowa side. And eventually, in 1969, I was able to took the exam again for Iowa, because at that time it was civil service, and it's, we'll explain probably later on how that exam title has changed and the Postal Service has changed. But at that time, I had to take the exam again for this area for Iowa, and was successful. Being hired at the Muscatine post office is where, from Moline to Muscatine, as we termed it then, as a temporary or as a casual, just part-time help, to help out over the holiday period. So for a short period of time, which was delightful, and I loved it because I had some experience from Moline. And while I was employed as the part-time help, there was a career position came open. And I had already taken and passed the exam, so I was eligible, so I got on as a career employee with them at the Muscatine post office. Started back then unloading mail from the docks and carrying mail on those days that mail needed to be carried. Eventually, I was a window clerk. I was there for a total of about 9 years, and 5 of the 9 years, Don, I was a window clerk, and that I really enjoyed because I absolutely, I love the public.
I know you do.
I do. I really, that's, I've always said some people may need a cold beverage to get high, just give me the public, and I absolutely love it.
And it's still showing. That's the beautiful thing about it. We'll talk
After all these years, yeah. From there, I got a call one day from one of the higher bosses and said, how would you like to go on a detail to be an officer in charge? Well, at the time, I didn't even know what that meant. And that is if you fill in as the postmaster of another town, say during the interim time, while they're waiting for the selection of a new postmaster. And that career call came to me that day, and I went to Letts, Iowa. And I think you have some family there.
Right, I do.
And I was there for 9 months and acted as the officer in charge. And while I was there, I really found out just how much I really enjoyed management. It was my taste of something different in the Postal Service. And then while I was there, the vacancy at Adlissa, Iowa, the postmaster vacancy came open. And so I applied for that, went through the interview process, traveled to Des Moines, was interviewed before an entire board. It's quite lengthy. You must fill out applications. Your selection is based on merit. And I was successful as the postmaster of being selected as a postmaster of Adlissa.
That's your start. That is in the upper. You've been postal work. How many years have you been involved in the postal work? Or do you want to divulge that?
No, that's all right. Yeah, I hate to say, but I guess it does start to age too. But come August 8th, I'll have 24 years in the Postal Service.
Isn't that great?
And it's amazing how it's been very good to me and to our family.
Many steps.
Many steps.
While you were, well, even now, you also were rewarded with another office by ballot in the area too.
Oh.
Would you divulge that?
Yes, I was, 6 years ago, I was elected to the school board in Wilton, Iowa. And my term will be up here in September. And I have chose not to rerun. And it's been very difficult for me to make that decision not to run because I have a very strong feeling about quality education in Iowa and just how we're educating our children. But my new responsibility as the postmaster here in Muscatine and the size of the responsibility, I owe it to my people to be able to be on call with them 24 hours a day. And so I think my work's cut out for me for a few years.
Very definitely, I think, and I think they appreciate that out there. I'm sure they're very, very sorry of losing your services and what have you, but they're well aware of the problem. You are still maintaining residence in the Moscow area.
In between Adlissa and Moscow, my husband and my daughter and I, we live on in a home on the Cedar River. We absolutely love the river. We're drawn to that. Dave and I both love to fish, and that's my relaxation. Dave loves the hunting aspect. I love the fishing, and we both share in nature and all of the gifts that God's created for us that you can't help but see when you look out the windows.
It's a tremendous bonding between you two, and as I say, I've known Dave many, many years, and I knew of his fishing. I wasn't aware of your enjoying the habit as much. Habit, is that what you call it, a habit?
That's to me, it's a relaxation.
We have some more family.
Oh, I do.
Let's talk about them a bit, shall we?
Christy is living at home with us right now. She'll be attending Wartburg this fall.
Christy, I know her.
Probably
she
so.
She said to me something at a local supermarket where she was carrying her groceries out for me. And I told her what we'd be doing. She says, oh, tell my mom I love her. So may I do that for her?
Sure, by all means.
Okay, tell her I did.
We'll consider it done, but you know, she shows that love every day because she's a very good daughter. And so she's excited about her career starting at Wartburg in a field of psychology, she hopes. And then I have 3 other children who are grown. They're older. My husband's children, the oldest, Wendy Roby Keck, works here at a realtor's office in Muscatine. She and her husband live in Muscatine. I'm very proud of the young lady. She is really very personable with the public and does a good job. And then Jenny and Jeff are the twins. They're soon to be 23, I think it is. And Jeff and Jenny both live here in Muscatine, and they work locally too. Of course, they have their own significant others that keep them busy and their personal lives. I'm very proud of my family.
Well, you can be, because that's quite a nice group, and like you say, you're still a closeness. I mean, you still have that togetherness. As you say, the one daughter's home until the school season.
Until school starts. Yeah, it's sort of our home there on the Cedar River becomes the family focal point when,
Right, great.
like when there's a birthday gathering in a couple weeks, they'll say, well, who's going to fry the fish? So we say, okay, Dave,
We
you get
know
to
who.
fry fish.
We know who.
And we potluck and away we go. So.
That's great. That's the way it should be. That's unfortunately not the way all families are, and I think that's why we have a bit of problems in our family circle, as it were, right now.
That has
It's
been
a little
evident in the
difficult.
educational
Oh,
system.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay, now we are at Atalissa as the postmaster. Then, as you are quite well known to do, you volunteer in many aspects of life. Again, you enjoy the public. So something comes up that kind of fits your ideal or thought, you join. Now, what were you doing in Spain?
Oh, Spain. Well, that just happens to be one of the volunteer
Yes.
things. And my daughter being the senior this last school year, we had planned that her American literature class could, with a class trip, go to England.
Okay.
And I had gone on some other, I have chaperoned other class trips through the high school too, but this year it was England, and it was 10 days of a total literary tour with the American literature class through the Wilton High School. We had 20 young ladies, and happened to be all ladies. None of the male students wanted to attend. And I think we had a total of 6 women chaperones, and we just had an absolute ball. It was extremely educational. It really makes you appreciate America, but also
Right.
to think that I actually walked into Shakespeare's home where he lived. That's awesome. It was a beautiful countryside.
Wouldn't do much for me, but I'm glad you appreciate
Oh,
it.
yes, I did. Really appreciate the literature.
Okay, April 1st, you got a call.
Oh, I did.
What was that call about?
In fact, I had tried to call my husband because we
Yeah.
hadn't made connections, and I couldn't. The line was busy. So I hung up and called back again. The line was busy. And lo and behold, pretty soon the phone rings into, well, I guess I had called him again. Finally made the connection through, and the phone didn't even ring. And I said, Dave? And he said, yes. He said, oh, I've been trying to get hold of you. He says, I have good news for you. And he said, first off, he said, do you know what day this is? And I said, it's April Fool's Day. He said, well, you've just become the postmaster at Muscatine, been named the postmaster.
Sure I
And
did.
by this time, the tears are rolling, and I'm saying, honey, you aren't teasing me. This is no April Fool's joke, is it? And he
Isn't
said,
that
no, I
tremendous?
wouldn't tease you about something like that. So I found out that far away that I had gotten the
Isn't that
job here
something?
in
That's the thing I
Muscatine.
wanted to bring up, that you were in Spain actually
Right.
when you were given the announcement of what had happened in your life.
That's right. And I could have flown home without an airplane. I wouldn't have
You're
needed
high
it.
again. Okay, now, next question is, and if you can answer this or avoid it, whichever, are you a Republican or Democrat? I mean, no, you got to be one of those to be postmaster, right?
Oh, not anymore, Don.
Okay.
That's a long
All right,
time
so-
ago. That was the case.
Oh,
Very
yes,
true.
I can remember real vividly.
Probably so. Back prior to 1970, if your political affiliation would, and your votes or perhaps your billfold would pull you into a postmaster appointment. But since the Postal Service reorganized in 1970, your tax dollars or my tax dollars do not pay for the operation of the U.S. Postal Service. We're a separate entity, just like Jack's or Walmart or Econos or Hy-Vee or anything,
Some
any other
comparison.
business. Yeah, and we are a arm. I refer to it as an arm of the government.
Surely.
Because my paycheck is written on paper that says government on it. The paper says government.
Sure.
But actually, the government borrows money from the Postal Service.
Got to get it somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. They're borrowing from all of us. I do
Yes,
believe they
I
are.
think
But
so.
since the reorganization of the Postal Service, the selections, the appointments for postmaster are strictly on merit.
Isn't that great? And
And-
that's how you received yours, obviously through the years of
Of hopefully
24 years of
20
service. They
credibility,
recognize that.
proving the ability that I was interested and willing to make a dedication of 100% to the community of Muscatine for Muscatine's needs and for my employees, which I'm very proud of.
Well, again, I think most of us viewing this are probably well aware you are the first woman to be given that position of postmaster in Muscatine, Iowa. There are others, I assume, throughout the service.
Oh,
You're the
yes.
first to be in Muscatine. Were you the first in Atalissa also?
Yes, I was the first in
you?
Atalissa also.
Well, you're
and
just
come-
breaking ground all over the place.
And believe it or not, when I first came, remember the story earlier, and I told you about coming to Muscatine and starting as a part-time help, they didn't have a restroom for me. They had never employed a female in the working force. There had been a secretary in the office who had been a female, but she was allowed to use the postmaster's restroom facilities. So when I came there, there was not a restroom facility designated for me. There was not a woman's facilities. So they had to create that. So at that time, when I first carried mail, first began sorting mail, I was the first woman at that point.
To do that, well, I knew that.
So I think it's pretty ironic that I have resurfaced as the first woman postmaster.
It's one of the things I have written there, no taxpayer funds. Actually, people aren't aware of that, I'm sure. They figure that that's just another ring of posterity on our tail that costs us as taxpayers to maintain. You have proven you know differently because of your function and everything. Now, the next thing I think is so interesting this day and age are these stamps. I seen a book the other day. I had no awareness the amount of stamps that you have. I mean, you have everyone except me and you, I think, on a stamp anymore.
But you know what? We can't be on a stamp till we're dead. And you have to be...
No hurry.
No hurry. That's one of the philatelic rules.
I see.
That your picture can be put on a stamp or featured on a stamp, but only after you have been dead for a certain length of time.
Oh, I didn't know
And so
that.
those stamps are called philatelic stamps. And they're designed specifically for what the public is interested in, for a commemorative issue or to commemorate an issue. Example, the rock and roll and the Elvis stamp.
Oh, yes. Large. We had to decide when we were fat or little.
That's
fat or
right.
thin. I mean,
That's
and the
true.
public was given that prerogative of choosing.
That's right. They got an
So, yeah,
opportunity
they had
for
to,
their
which
input.
do you like? And they chose the thin one. I don't know. I don't have a stamp. I'm sorry about that, Elvis, but
He probably doesn't know or care.
well, I hear about him being in sometimes Tucson, maybe in Toronto. You know, a little leery of it, but I don't think it's really true. But people
I don't
do
think
see.
so.
But you do have so many. I don't know what magazine it's in, but my gracious, there's so many amounts of commemorative stamps. Mostly, I think, is what they're designated
We
to be.
publish a philatelic catalog
Right.
every 6 times a year, and in that philatelic catalog is all the stamps that's available for the public's desire, because some people collect just the 29-cent commemorative issues. Some people collect every issue that the Postal Service prints, and some people collect maybe just books or just the stamped envelopes or maybe just postcards. So it's there to provide what the public wants, and the
Actually,
public has
yeah.
a demand for that.
In other words, it is through our desires that
That's
this comes about. I mean,
exactly
you're not doing
right.
it because you think it's something to like. You actually know, or there is something communicated to you that we'd like to have that.
We have marketing specialists
I
in the
suppose.
Postal Service who definitely spend considerable
what they
time
do.
researching what the public wants and what their desires are. In fact, since the reorganization began of the Postal Service here just about a year ago this time with our new Postmaster General, they have been doing quite a bit of research to improve the quality of service
Oh.
to the public.
Well, great. One thing that you announced to me, and I think it's been announced more or less publicly too, we're going to continue with 29 cents for what, at least 2 years?
The Postmaster General Marvin Runyon has said possibly 1995.
Okay.
Nothing in concrete as of
Sure,
yet.
sure.
But we reduced a lot of high-level positions and upper management positions for cost effectiveness, and so he's trying very hard to keep that rate down for the public.
Done quite well. I think everyone's, you know, anytime it's holding even, we're quite happy with today's problems that we are incurring, you know, and the inflation, what have you.
And the public has to
quite,
remember, too, that we're the largest communication center in the United States, as well as abroad, because we do have units and facilities internationally, too, that we work with international countries.
You have had some competition arise in the last few years, obviously, but you are responding now with your 2-minute overnight delivery in order to, I think, maintain some of that. I don't think you're trying to really knock someone out of business, particularly. At least I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what you're doing, but at least you have responded to the, I'll not name them, but the two major, there's a lot of others I see around too, but there are 2 major companies that have gone into that business strictly as quick delivery and what have you. And I see now with your overnight express delivery, you're attempting to get some of that market, which is lucrative to the degree too.
That's right. Because we are an independent business, just like any other business,
as you
we
say.
need to market our goods, and we need to prove to the public, to the our customers that we are improving our service, and we are doing just that.
Good enough. Now let's get into the fact that you still get out of the office and do a lot of voluntary work. Most recently, I think this is quite recently, where you came up with an idea of helping the Salvation Army, I believe. I don't know whether that's where it started, Salvation Army, but at least to help flood victims. You said, why don't we ask the public, I guess you'd say public, not just people get mail, but anyone, to place whatever they feel would be clothing-wise. Was it clothing primarily?
Foods, non-perishable foods.
Okay, excuse me, I forgot. Food out on their steps, and then they would then have your mail carriers pick them up and take them then, I guess, to the Salvation Army. That's where it ended up going, I know, too, and then it was going to be then, in turn, delivered, packaged somehow or other, I guess. I mean, I wasn't involved that much, I confess to that, but then delivered out to those who were in actual need because of the flood. Now, that was your idea entirely,
well,
pretty much.
Let's say, put it this way, everything we do at the Muscatine Post Office is a cooperative team effort.
Okay.
And so every decision that's made does not come just from me, but we function as a family and as a team effort at the office. And so knowing that some city carriers in another part of the country during the last holiday season had done a food drive, we decided to help just Muscatine and not do a national food drive, but something that would serve the needs at this time of this state disaster, which was devastating. And so one of my key carriers and one of the leaders in the carrier workforce visited with Jim Beach, and he and I brainstormed a little bit, and we come up with a system that would help and assist the Salvation Army. And we collected over 50,000 non-perishable food items.
Way beyond your expectations. I did read
Tremendous input from the community.
Tremendous response. You were just so proud of all the Muscatinites, I guess we'd call
That's right.
ourselves.
That's what we are.
That's great. Anything else you're involved in now that you want to talk about a little bit?
I'm involved at Zion Lutheran Church in Adalissa.
Okay, yes.
My faith has been a big part of my life, and I really could never have succeeded to this point without my Savior. And Zion right now is without a pastor, and so I'm on the call committee. So that's just one of the things. And the finishing up the school board, and I have a lot of energy yet to give to my employees. So that's where I'll
Well, you are in a position now that I'm sure is time consuming. I mean, you just don't sit behind a desk. I know that. You just don't sit behind a desk and your feet cocked up. You work. You work with the people, and I think they all are gratified with it. You did have to redo some of the fixtures in the room as we talked the other day. It's a little too masculine.
We softened it just a little bit.
It looks very nice. Also, something she has, and I can't go without mentioning it, she had a pair of dice sitting over here. And I said, what are those? Oh, I'm glad you asked, because that's what it's for. Now, if you will explain how that came about.
On my table between our chairs, that pair of dice, and one of the employees, one of the dear fellows, Rich Garman, he is a sweetheart, and he brought in that pair of dice and he set them there, and I said, Rich, just what are those for? And he said, I want you to know and never forget that you work in a paradise. I shall never let go of those dice.
No, they're there for conversations piece, and luckily I was astute enough to pick them up and look at them and say, what's that for, Dyann? Oh, great, she got to explain as she just did. I understand you had a bit of a problem out Zion Lutheran. You had some water in the basement out there, I'm told. That I know we have our luncheon there once a month, you know.
The senior
citizens.
We
didn't get to go. And twice we didn't get to go.
And they have a pretty good luncheon out there,
yes,
too.
Yes, oh my. Oh my, yes, that's fantastic. First Tuesday of every month. But we had them past two, and I don't think there's one this month because of being August, and they usually respond to the fair.
To the fair needs at that time,
County Fair. So. Sorry to hear about your pastor leaving. He was quite a nice
Well,
gentleman.
it's good for him. Anyone enjoys a career opportunity, and it's good for him. So
you had to move up, so there you are.
That's right. That's what I said.
You're not going to really go for the Postmaster General, are you?
Oh, not today. I've made...
Hang loose for a while there, Dyann.
For a little while. I've made a commitment to these employees. I don't want them to have to switch to another Postmaster, so I'm with them for another 10 years.
There you are. 10 years. That's a commitment.
That's what I owe that office.
Do you sign that, do you?
No, I don't sign that.
Okay.
That's in my heart.
There you go. That's the best part. Again, I'm so happy to hear that because I have always been, as I said the other day, under the awareness, because it may have been publicized, but it wasn't highly publicized, that political party had nothing any longer to do with the job. It's merit only. They do not look at party affiliation. Doesn't mean a thing in this day and age because, like you say, it's separated per se from the governmental functions in Washington, D.C., so not to worry about that.
That's right, and I still get that question, probably daily, as to some statement, the fact that usually the phone call comes if we've misdelivered a piece of mail. We don't like to make mistakes, but we're human. And someone will eventually complain because they assume that their tax dollars are paying for my salary, which in fact, due to the reorganization, I took the career move and the new position without a pay raise. And as part of our Postmaster General's reorganization to improve
what he's doing in order to keep it stable and price money-wise.
That's right, and that's happening in all major businesses. There's a lot of cuts, a lot of streamlining.
And you accepted that?
Certainly.
What could you do? Well, obviously you're moving up in such a much more responsibility. Obviously, how many employees do you have there?
65.
65 employees.
And certainly I enjoy the paycheck, and certainly I'm not going to give it back to him. But I certainly don't work for just the dollar because I truly enjoy going to work every day.
I think that's unique in this day and age, particularly in something of that nature. Like I say, when it was strictly by appointment, you even said the pocketbook, which I think did have some bearing upon one time because I remember a few of them here. Then it was like they didn't care. I mean, I don't think there was any direction. I mean, they accepted a post because of the paycheck, very logically. But then again, because of it being astute, and I am a postmaster. You don't see that on you at all. I see no crown or anything.
No.
You're being at all.
We're all. Every one of us are equal.
I think
I may have a different title, and they may be classified a clerk or a carrier or window clerk, but we're all equal. We just have different job functions.
That's all. You do different things.
But I did learn one thing, Don, is that you've heard the phrase. Who said that? The buck stops here. Was that Roosevelt or Truman? Truman?
Harry said it.
All right, Harry Truman said that. Well, I truly understand what that word means, or that phrase, when the buck stops here, because I truly know now that when you're in that position, if you haven't made the right decision, by the time it hits my desk, the buck stops here,
buck stops right there. So and you're happy it does. You want to take care of it.
I want to make sure I've made the right decision all the way along.
Well, I can't think of anyone more appropriately designated, really, because I've known you long enough to know that you do dedicate your life to whatever project it is. In this particular case, it's been the Postal Service, but then again, you do take outside work. I know you were very instrumental in many changes in the school district of Walton. I mean, in the time you were there, you were president, I think.
I'm currently president of the Wilton School Board.
You were also president of that, so that again is responsibility to be coordinator of whatever is needed there to bring up. No, you have to get that all coordinated too and go along with it. So we find that we have quite a young lady here, and I think everyone should be aware that you have dedicated your life to this. Also to Dave and the family. I mean, again, you don't give away that as being part of your responsibility too. I think you enjoy that thoroughly too.
That's my home and my family mean a great deal to me. In fact, my husband, though, jokes. He says that he lives in Adelaide and I live in Muscatine.
Well, I imagine it might seem like that occasionally.
Occasionally, but bless his heart, he does support me in every direction that that I've taken.
That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. Well, I know Dave too, casually here and there. I mean, I can remember you threw a party for Dave. Remember that?
Oh, yes, long time ago.
Was it a long time ago?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Come on, he was just 50, so Dyann had a big celebration for him, and surprise party, and I think it really caught him.
Yeah, I don't think he liked turning 50, though, so well.
No, you had to pacify him best you could.
The best I could.
And I think you did quite well. That was a fabulous party. We really did out to
Isaac Walton.
Isaac Walton League, yeah. Nice
where he's active there in his ship's trap.
Yes, I know. That's why you utilize that function, because he is active there. That having home. So, well, Dyann, I find that we're just about out of time. Would you believe that? You and I have yacked long enough now to fill our time.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, Don, because my son has said to me, Dyann, you could have a 15-minute conversation with a cow. So, Don, we could talk probably forever.
I hope you don't mean that to me now.
No.
Anyhow, it's been a pleasure to have you with us. We certainly appreciate you taking a little time from your schedule in the daytime to come and visit with us. So thank you again for being with us, and we appreciate the time. We thank you all for being with us today, and we invite you to watch us again. We ask you to remember TCI, who have given us the opportunity of using these facilities to film this, and to our cameraman and director. We bid you adieu. Thank you.